Hi guys, this is Dr. Sadasivam once again with you. And in today's video, we're going to talk about something very important as far as telecom is concerned. If you remember, we had posted a video on telecom explaining about duopoly and what the government of India did in order to stop it by supporting Vodafone in whatever manner it was possible. Today marks a very important milestone in the telecom sector, and I'm talking about the deal between Google and Airtel. Google will be investing more than $1 billion in Bharti Airtel. Out of this $1 billion, approximately $700 million will be in the form of stakes, whereby they will be acquiring around 1.28 percentage stakes in the company, and the remaining 300 million will be used for multi-year commercial agreements, which involves handsets, instruments, and development of the ecosystem, which so far they have not divulged. It's going to be a very positive development for the telecom sector. And those of you who are aware of stock, who invest in stock market, you are aware of the fact that Airtel has been a company which has been downgraded as a triple B minus with a negative outlook by most of the survey agencies, by most of the agencies. Now, let us see the impact of this particular deal on the future prospects of Bharti Airtel. In fact, the Airtel management has announced that they will be using part of this money to clear off their debts, and they have certain leverages, including their liabilities in the construction of telecom towers and other infrastructure related to the telecom. And now with this new money coming in, they are hopeful that their total net leverage debts will come down by approximately 1.5 times. Now, if you look at it, it's going to be extremely positive in terms of making their balance sheet healthy, and it will also help Bharti Airtel in deploying a faster network, especially in the deployment of 5G services. Now, the collaboration with Google will have a lot of positive impacts in terms of the whole device ecosystem, enterprise solution, etc., etc. And along with that, 5G is not, of course, important, but along with 5G, the manner in which the 5G is going to be used in India is a question that most of us ask. In fact, the 5G technology is so costly that you cannot afford it for making calls, etc., etc. It's not just the data that we use for WhatsApp. We have to find a use case for 5G technology, and that's what most of the telecom operators throughout the world are doing. They are putting all their efforts into innovation, creativity in terms of making good uses cases, etc. So this partnership, everyone hopes that it will accelerate the 5G deployment in a very productive manner. Now, a lot of synergies need to be made, and as far as Google is concerned, one thing is extremely clear: Google is eyeing India, and they have a very positive outlook towards India. That's very clear. The fact that they had invested more than $10 billion during the last year through their own fund, which is called as the India Digitization Fund, that bears testimony to the fact how much Google is looking at India as a potential market for future. Now they have invested $1 more billion in Airtel, which means they have a big plan for India for the next 4 to 5 years, right? We've already talked about how they would be putting the stake of $700 million for stakes, and remaining 300 million will be used for improving their ecosystem. So Google believes that the next level of growth, next phase of growth is going to happen in the Asia Pacific market, in which India will be playing a very important role. Now, if you look at leveraging technology, and we are talking about 5G use cases, They're going to use it for so many other things like your healthcare, your education technology, yet tech. In fact, it's called as your fintech, financial technology, all these things. And not just that, entry level smartphone is another one that Google has in mind. And I'm sure all these local telecom companies, your Airtel, Jio, they're all working towards that. Now, if you remember, there's a very, very important development which I would like to explain here. Google had got into a partnership with Jio Phones, Reliance, the competitor of Airtel during the last year. If you remember, let me give those figures once again. They had invested approximately $4.5 billion in 2020, 2 years back, by way of which they acquired 7.7 percentage stake in Jio. Now, how would one read the second investment of another 1 billion in their competitor company? Like 1 billion is, very small compared to their $4.5 billion in Reliance. Obviously, the investment in Bharti is far less. But what should one read from this kind of an investment? The scope is same in both the cases. It's affordable phone, it is 5G, cloud services. It talks about Google's ambitious, plan for India. All that is fine. But how do we read into it? What's the point in putting your hands in both the competitors? Now, let me explain certain important things to you. Like, for example, we are talking about a two-player market in which we are talking about handsets, we are talking about 5G use technology, we are talking about cloud. Please remember, Google has a software expertise. They would be able to bring software expertise to the table. But as far as smartphone is concerned, it is a hardware expertise. You need a lot of expertise in hardware, which currently Google does not possess. Now, if you look at the data, India approximately has around 570 million smartphone users. Now, if you compare this trend with the rest of the world, it is very, very small and insignificant, because considering India's population of 1.3 billion people, the scope for this is very, very large. I'm talking about smartphone penetration, and that is exactly where Google's collaboration with companies like Airtel, Jio, etc., the right kind of synergies will be developed at that place, right? So they need hardware partners, and you really need international players who have deep pockets, who can come inside the country, who can invest money and over a period of time benefit along with the local companies like Jio and Airtel. So it's going to be a win-win situation, and these synergies need to be developed over a period of time. Now, one more thing that needs to be kept in mind is, just like we had the steel super cycle year back, you've seen most of these steel companies going up 3 times and 4 times. Talk about Steel Authority of India, Tata Steel, your JSW, Jindal, all these companies. Of course, in the recent 1 or 2 months, they have come down, but a large part of that, if you see in the last 1.5, 2 years, they have all gone up 3, 4 times. So that's going to be an earning upcycle, and many experts feel that this upcycle is going to happen in the telecom market also. Now, if you look at Asia Pacific region, our companies, our homegrown companies like Jio and Airtel, they have they are supposed to be one of the top three telecom companies. I think they will be in the top 1 or 2, or maybe 2 or 3. I don't have the data with me, but I am sure both these companies are in the top 3. Host of reasons, because they have benefited by the recent tariff hikes. There have been correction in the industry structure as a whole. Additional customers have come to both these companies, Airtel and Jio, because of Vodafone issues. They have got the pricing power in the meanwhile. So now when I talk about pricing power, please don't misunderstand that they are going to have this pricing power and they will use it against the customers. If you look at the data, if you go by past records, we all remember, I remember very well, 7, 8 years back, we used to pay 500 rupees for 1 GB of data. I still remember we used to have a family sharing plan where I used to get 1 GB for 500 rupees, and share it amongst my wife, my son, me. All of us used to use that within 1 GB. But look at what's happening. At one third the price, you're getting 1 GB every day. So these are that kind of companies which will not, let me tell you, they will not try to squeeze the customer. They need to have little bit of pricing power, because these companies have to survive, right? In order to give these benefits to us, these companies have to survive, and it's going to be a win-win situation. Consumers on one hand will be benefited, and the companies will also benefited. So that's where the pricing power is important, and both these companies will acquire that, and of course the profits generated will be reinvested into technology, into infrastructure, into telecom towers, just ensuring much better connectivity, and also exploring new 3G, 5G cases by which all of citizens of our country can benefit. So this, from the perspective of Google, it's a very good decision for them. It's a win-win situation. They're not going to do any great obligation for us by investing. It's going to be a win-win situation for them, because from the perspective, they are going to have access to these companies, which are very, very strong companies in India. And it is also an opportunity for them to gain a foothold in a market which is going to jump leaps and bounds, because India is a country where we are talking of a $5 trillion economy. So the options are really huge as far as the telecom sector is concerned, and Google is investing $1 billion at the right time now. Now, if you look at Jio and Airtel, both of them are 5G ready, and 5G use cases are being developed, as we have talked about it, and the adoption in India is going to be very, very fast, much faster than anyone can expect. Now, if you look at $1 billion of investment, what we are talking about, Google into Bharti Airtel, $1 billion is not a huge investment by any standards, considering Bharti Airtel's scale and size. But $1 billion is extremely important, because a marquee investor like Google is investing into Bharti, and that makes a lot of difference. That brings in a lot of difference, and of course, along with Google's expertise in software and your cloud platforms, your enterprise solutions, etc., etc. So now the whole industry is moving from competition to collaboration. Today in the CNBC, they were discussing about competition and collaboration. So it's a journey from competition to collaboration. We are not talking about India and Pakistan, they are enemies. Absolutely not. Here it's going from competition to collaboration, because both these companies will explode in terms of how one can benefit from each other. And of course, competition will remain between them, but it will be collaboration based. That reminds me of a very, very important management concept. Many books have been written on this: blue ocean strategy and red ocean strategy. So I'm going to make a comparative analysis using these concepts of blue ocean strategy into the telecom sector in India, where two companies, Bharti on one hand, Jio on the other hand, Google, a foreign company, coming into India, looking at the future prospects of India, investing in both these competitors, and together some kind of an ecosystem is developed in which there is going to be a win-win for all of us. Okay guys, this is Dr. Sadasivam signing off till we meet again. Bye bye. Jai Hind.